Have you ever imagined that a single thought exists capable of preventing poverty from touching your life? Thomas Troward taught that the universe does not understand requests, but faithfully responds to the mental laws that govern everything that exists. This is why a mind that stands firm in the truth of abundance creates around itself a vibratory atmosphere that repels every form of limitation. It is not magic, it is spiritual science. Poverty cannot enter where consciousness is already occupied by wealth. Troward was a judge, a mystic, and the man who deciphered the mental laws of prosperity. He affirmed that the universe is a living substance, molded by thought. And where the mind sustains the idea of divine fullness, lack simply finds no space to exist. Today you will understand why this single thought is capable of raising an invisible shield around your life and forbidding poverty entry forever. Troward taught that the mind is the gateway through which abundance enters or is blocked. No external event can impose scarcity upon a consciousness that refuses to accept it. He said that poverty is not a condition, it is a suggestion, and each time you believe this suggestion, the mental gate closes a bit more. But when you affirm the truth of fullness, the gate opens and the flow returns. Troward explained that the human mind functions as a sacred border. On one side is the visible world, bills, challenges, circumstances. On the other is the invisible, spiritual substance, infinite and abundant. The gateway is guarded by dominant thought. If it is based on fear, scarcity enters. But if it is grounded in the certainty that good is constant and divine, no poverty has permission to cross. This is why he said the greatest spiritual discipline is to watch what you think. Each repeated idea is an invitation. Each intense emotion is an authorization. And the mind, as a living gateway of creation, can only manifest what it accepts as truth. When you decide to accept only thoughts of fullness, the true miracle begins. The external world, obedient, reorganizes itself to confirm your new inner state. Troward affirmed that no one is born poor. They simply learn to think in terms of limitation. He said poverty is a collective vibration, kept alive by generations that repeat the same beliefs of lack. Phrases like, "money is difficult," "life is unfair," or "that is not for me," are small mental spells that keep the subconscious bound to scarcity. And while these ideas are accepted as normal, the cycle repeats. But it takes just one firm thought of abundance to break centuries of programming. Troward explained that the subconscious is neutral. It does not know what wealth or poverty is. It simply reproduces the pattern it receives. This is why whoever constantly thinks of not having creates more lack, even without wanting to. Focus is a seed. What you water grows. And when the mind decides to focus on abundance, the vibratory field changes instantly. He said the thought that forbids poverty is one that refuses to believe in limitation as part of the divine plan. While fear says, "it is impossible," faith responds, "infinite substance is already on its way." This simple act of not accepting poverty as real is a spiritual decree. The universe understands the order and obeys, because, in Troward's words, divine mind never conceived scarcity, only endless fullness. Troward explained that the mind is governed by an exact law. What it affirms with conviction, it creates, and what it denies with faith, it dissolves. This is the law that forbids poverty from entering the life of one who lives consciously. It is not about fighting scarcity, but about mentally refusing its reality. While you fight lack, you still believe in it. But when you simply deny it as false, as an illusion without power, it disappears. He said poverty is a shadow, and every shadow vanishes when light is turned on. The light in this case is the conscious thought of divine abundance. Troward affirmed that the illuminated mind does not need to combat anything. It simply affirms the truth. God is abundance. Therefore, I am abundance. This simple affirmation, felt with genuine emotion, undoes every vibration of lack. He taught that denying evil is not ignoring reality, but recognizing that only good has real substance. This is why the thought that forbids poverty is, in truth, a spiritual decision, not allowing any idea of limitation to settle in consciousness. When this decision is kept firm, the subconscious obeys, and the external world slowly reorganizes itself to reflect the new belief. Scarcity is not forced out. It simply ceases to find a home where fear once lived. Troward taught that a single firm thought is capable of closing the door of poverty forever. This thought is a mental key that reprograms the subconscious and completely changes personal vibration. He said that when the mind affirms a divine truth with unshakable faith, it creates a spiritual atmosphere around the person, an energetic field that repels every idea of lack. Nothing inferior can enter where consciousness is already occupied by fullness. The thought is this: divine substance is always flowing to me and through me. Troward said that when this phrase is felt with genuine emotion, the subconscious receives the order to open all channels of prosperity. Fear dissolves, resistance weakens, and opportunities begin to align naturally. The universe, obedient to law, must respond to the dominant vibration of one who recognizes their unity with the whole. He explained that this practice is like placing guardians at the door of the mind. Each time fear tries to enter, faith intercepts it and says, "Here there is only space for abundance." With time, this response becomes automatic. The subconscious learns there is no longer room for scarcity, and the external world only reflects this new internal order. Poverty loses power because there is no one left to invite it. Troward said that emotion is the cement of creation, thought is the form, but it is feeling that makes it solid, real, and lasting. This is why he warned, it is not enough to think about prosperity. You must feel prosperous. The conscious mind declares the idea, but it is the heart that engraves the vibration in the subconscious. And it is this emotional vibration that determines what will be manifested. He explained that the feeling of gratitude is the force that fixes the thought of abundance in the deep mind. When you sincerely feel grateful for what you have, and even for what has not yet arrived, you are emitting a spiritual order. I already possess the good I seek. This feeling makes the subconscious relax and open the doors of flow. Anxiety, which is the sign of fear, disappears, and the universe, free to act, begins to move circumstances in your favor. Troward called gratitude the emotion of certainty. He said that anticipated thanks is proof that the mind has already accepted the reality of abundance, and once accepted internally, it must manifest externally. This is why the thought that forbids poverty is inseparable from the emotion of gratitude. Because where there is gratitude, there is no lack. There is only recognition of the eternal flow of good. Troward taught that poverty feeds on fear, and fear only exists when the mind forgets who it really is. This is why he recommended a simple exercise of mental realignment, capable of dissolving fear in just seconds. He called this moment divine remembrance. The exercise is this: breathe deeply, close your eyes, and affirm silently, "The life that created me is the same life that sustains me. Nothing can be lacking from me." Troward said that this phrase, when felt with genuine emotion, re-establishes the connection with the source. Fear loses ground because the subconscious recognizes the presence of a greater power. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. The darkness does not need to be pushed out. It simply disappears. In the same way, the mind illuminated by faith expels fear effortlessly, and where fear dissolves, abundance finds passage. He explained that this practice does not need to be long, just a few seconds of conscious remembrance. The secret lies in the intensity of feeling, not the duration of the ritual. Each time the fear of lack appears, repeat the thought with serenity. Gradually, the subconscious learns a new emotional response, one of trust. And trust is the true antidote to poverty. Troward affirmed that the greatest cause of poverty is the forgetting of man's divine origin. He said that as long as the individual believes he is only a body limited by circumstances, he will remain subject to lack. But the moment he recognizes himself as the direct expression of universal mind, the entire game changes. Consciousness expands, and the vibration of scarcity dissolves instantly, because the child of abundance cannot live in lack unless he believes so. Troward explained that the human being is the channel through which the divine expresses itself, and divine substance never runs out, never fails, never denies supply. It flows according to the degree of recognition. The more you see yourself as an extension of God, the more freely the flow of prosperity manifests. Poverty cannot remain where the mind remembers its spiritual heritage. He recommended the daily affirmation, "I am the living expression of divine abundance. Everything that is God's is also mine." By repeating this truth with faith and emotion, the subconscious begins to accept a new identity. The person stops seeking prosperity and begins to live it as a natural state. And from that point on, as Troward said, life becomes a continuous reflection of the power of one who knows they are one with the infinite. Troward taught that the mind is like a door always open. Something is always entering, and what enters determines what will be manifested. This is why he said true spiritual work is not to seek blessings, but to watch thoughts. Each accepted idea is a seed cast into the fertile soil of the subconscious, and the soil does not distinguish what is good or bad. It simply makes grow what was planted with emotion. He recommended what he called silent vigilance. It is not about living in tension, but about observing with serenity everything that passes through the mind. When you perceive a thought of fear or scarcity, do not fight against it. Simply replace it with a thought of fullness. Say to yourself, this idea is not mine. I accept only thoughts of abundance, and return to feeling gratitude, peace, and trust. Troward explained that power lies in constancy. The mind trained to respond with serenity becomes invulnerable to the suggestion of poverty. No external circumstance has the strength to penetrate a stable mental field. Poverty does not enter where there is vigilance, because the subconscious only obeys what is repeated with faith. And whoever repeats good creates good. This is why watching is the most sacred act of one who wishes to live in harmony with divine abundance. Troward said that the prosperous mind is contagious. It radiates a vibration so strong that it begins to transform everything it touches. Places, people, opportunities, everything responds to the magnetic field of a consciousness aligned with abundance. He explained that the universe is sensitive to mental order. Where there is harmony within, harmony must reflect without. This is why whoever maintains thoughts of wealth and gratitude inevitably elevates the entire environment around them. He observed that mentally poor people create environments of tension, worry, and fear. These vibrations repel inspiration, block ideas, and even disorganize the physical body. But where there is serenity and trust, vital energy flows without obstacles. Prosperity begins to manifest through coincidences, good conversations, and providential encounters. It is the universe responding to the frequency of harmony. Troward said, "It is not the place that makes the man. It is the man who sanctifies the place." When the mind becomes prosperous, even the simplest environment transforms into a space of growth and beauty. And when this vibration stabilizes, money becomes only a natural consequence. Because poverty cannot remain where there is peace, gratitude, and consciousness of unity with the divine. The external world always bows before the mind that has found its center. Troward said that poverty is not a punishment. It is only forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of who we are, of the power that lives within us, and of the inexhaustible source that sustains us. He explained that when the mind disconnects from divine consciousness, it loses reference to infinite supply and begins to see itself as lacking. But the instant it remembers its true origin, the flow returns. The remembrance of unity with the Creator is the definitive cure for every form of limitation. He said that every soul is a channel of universal abundance, but when this channel is obstructed by fear, guilt, or disbelief, the energy of life cannot circulate. It is like a river blocked by its own doubt. Troward taught that the solution is not to seek more strength, it is to remove the mental blocks that prevent strength from flowing. Poverty disappears naturally when the mind realigns to the truth that good is constant and unlimited. He summarized it this way: "It is not lack that exists, it is the remembrance of fullness that has been lost." Each time you remember this truth, the mind opens a little more, the heart warms, and the energy of good circulates again. And the more you remember, the less space scarcity has to exist. Remembrance is the antidote, and love for life is the fuel that keeps the channel open. Troward affirmed that the mind is malleable, and habit is the sculptor. He said that each thought repeated with emotion becomes a groove in consciousness, and that it is through repetition that new realities are formed. This is why whoever desires to eliminate poverty must constantly replace old ideas of limitation with affirmations of abundance, not as one who begs, but as one who remembers a forgotten truth. Repetition is the spiritual hammer that breaks the stone of doubt. He taught that mental declarations should be simple, short, and spoken with emotion. Affirmations such as, "The universe is my ally," "Prosperity surrounds me and serves me," "I am the living consciousness of abundance." These phrases, when repeated daily, engrave new vibratory patterns in the subconscious. And little by little, the mind stops reacting with fear and begins to respond with trust. Troward said the subconscious is like an obedient employee. It works without questioning orders. If the command is "I cannot," it confirms the limitation. But if the command is "Everything is possible for me," it begins to gather invisible resources to materialize this truth. Repetition transforms the impossible into the natural, the improbable into the inevitable. And whoever perseveres in this mental training eventually perceives that poverty was never real. It was only an old habit that finally dissolved. Troward taught that faith is not hope, it is certainty. To hope is to doubt with politeness. To believe is to know with conviction. He said the universe does not respond to hesitant requests, but to the silent certainty of one who has already recognized good as a gift. This is why the thought that forbids poverty is one sustained by unshakable faith in divine law. Faith is the spiritual seal that authenticates the mental decree. Troward explained that the power of faith lies in constancy, not intensity. A small flame, but continuous, illuminates more than a fire that quickly goes out. In the same way, the daily habit of trusting attracts more solid results than fleeting enthusiasm. Faith is a stable vibration that keeps the mind in peace, even amid chaos. And this peace is the sign that abundance has already begun to move toward you. He said, "The universe never fails to respond, but only moves when the mind ceases to doubt. When faith becomes natural, fear loses its nourishment, doubt finds nowhere to rest, and poverty has nowhere left to hide. Faith is the invisible wall of prosperity, a silent force that repels every idea of limitation. And the more the mind lives in this state, the more the world confirms. The law is perfect, and abundance is inevitable." Troward said that the illuminated mind becomes invulnerable to poverty, not because the world ceases to have challenges, but because the individual ceases to vibrate at the frequency of lack. He explained that true protection does not lie in external circumstances, but in the firm consciousness of unity with infinite good. When this consciousness is established, the energy of lack simply cannot penetrate. It is like trying to extinguish the sun by blowing out its flame. The greater light remains. He taught that the secret is to transform abundance into identity, not into desire. While desire says "I want," identity affirms "I am," and the universe always responds to "I am." Whoever lives saying "I am supplied," "I am guided," "I am prosperous," creates a vibration that repels everything contrary to these truths. Poverty cannot coexist with the certainty of being. Troward said that when the mind reaches this level of firmness, money ceases to be a concern and becomes an instrument. Life flows with naturalness, fear ceases, and good multiplies. Nothing more needs to be forced because everything begins to come by natural right. This is the true mental shield against poverty, the stable consciousness that abundance is not conquest, it is inheritance. Troward said the universe waits only for a firm decision to transform an entire life. The mind may have prayed, affirmed, studied, and desired, but nothing changes until it decides in a definitive way to no longer accept poverty as reality. This is the turning point, the instant when the human being aligns with law and declares, "From now on, only good has power in my life." In that moment, the mental field changes, the body relaxes, and divine energy begins to act without resistance. He said, abundance does not arrive through effort, but through permission. When the mind stops fighting and begins to trust, the flow of good becomes continuous. Opportunities appear, doors open, money returns to circulate, not through miracle, but through harmony. The mind becomes transparent to creative power, and life responds with generosity. This is how the mental law is fulfilled. The inner cause creates the outer effect. And if this message has touched something within you, if you feel this truth has awakened a new strength in your heart, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who also needs to remember their divine power. Because when one consciousness awakens, the entire world rises with it. And as Thomas Troward said, poverty cannot enter where the mind is already full of God's presence.